Welcome to a new episode of Advancing Consciousness series with Franco Di Nicola. This is a place where people can come to gain further insight and clarity as to what is going on and how we can shift things on a personal and global level, while also accessing higher levels of consciousness and awareness. We bring this series to you free of charge so that many are able to access this information. However, if you resonate with what Franco shares and you would like to support his work to get more content out, contributions are welcomed and greatly appreciated. A link is in the description and will be provided in the chat if you feel guided to do so. Also, we have many previous workshops, such as the most recent, Bringing Out the New You to Play in the New World, along with our membership program, Let's Talk About You, where like-minded people come together bi-weekly to talk about the topics requiring deeper understanding and clarity. All of these are available on Teachable, and we encourage you to check them out as they are great resources at very affordable prices to assist in better understanding this human experience. The Teachable link will also be provided in the chat and is also in the description. And lastly, don't forget to share. As more of us come together who are creating shifts in themselves, the more effective it will be to shift things globally. Thank you for joining us and being part of the change. Enjoy today's broadcast.
So welcome everybody, and it's great to reconnect again. And we welcome you to this episode 18, part 6. Of course, this time we're going the wrap up. So we're going to do everything possible to wrap this up in this part, because the part kept growing and growing and growing. I know there's a lot of content and so forth, but we're going to make some new episodes starting, possibly not this Thursday, because this Thursday we're going to handle some Q&A questions that have come across our path and our way while we were doing episode 18 and all the different parts. I know we addressed some of them along the way, but there are some that we have not addressed. So we're going to do that this coming Thursday. And then on Saturday, we're going to have another meditation. It's a global meditation, fully guided, and it's advancing the dance of life that we're playing with at this point in time, which is focused on love and oneness, the two pinnacles of our creation and the elevation of our consciousness that we're stepping into at this point in time. So the original codes were the oneness and love was very powerful in the original design, and that's the design that is now being re-stimulated and brought back online. Even though that is brought online, we have to now go into locking it in as part of our experience at this point and utilize it as further creation as we move forward. So if you can join us, it's at 2 p.m. This coming Saturday, and it will be, of course, guided, and hopefully we'll have the Facebook stuff all resolved and up to snuff and running in that way. So we'll have to find out. Maybe we got blocked or kicked off or something. I'm not sure. But anyways, this is the second time, because Saturday on the last meditation we weren't able to get on either. So I had to repost everything at that time. All right. So let's carry on with part 6. And so I just wanted to mention to you, I know I talked about the original operating system that was put in after the retooling of planet Earth and the reseeding of planet Earth, meaning all the sentient beings, the retooling of planet Earth itself, all the beautiful beings that participated and so forth, and then the creation of these physicalities. And again, I remind you, the creation of the physicality is completely encoded light spectrum, what we can call at this point holographic projection within a holographic world projection of a sort. So when it was retooled, we really put a lot of effort. Souls that were involved from higher dimensional consciousness at that point in time, that were in creator opportunities or capacities at that time, and redesigned it. So the thing I wanted to remind you, that the original design, which is what we're stepping into again, we're reconnecting back to the original organic matrix, which is the fundamental operating system. We're going back to our blueprint operating system within our physical form and the way that even the human entity and the soul's functionality in that connection really go up to another level. So the capacity to enlighten and grow and to move exponentially is very powerful, and that is what we're doing right now. And this is how it's going to speed up the process of us going through the different stages. Because if we look at it from a very typical pattern of evolution, or a pattern of our different cycles of our lives and so forth, the movement forward would be tremendous. It would take so long for us to be able to do that. So a lot of what's going on, we've already created a cutoff point in a sense where energetically we're re-stimulating. That's why the inverted matrix was removed, the unplugging from the inverted 3D, 2D, and all that stuff was put in so that we actually are operating in our true design. So I'm going to cover various points as we go along. Some of these points have been covered, so I'm just going to expand it and just kind of bring you up to speed on some of the things that we've already talked about in the various 5 parts, and some of the things we even talked about in previous episodes. So they kind of cement things in, kind of bring us in alignment with where we go from this point here. So one of the things I wanted to mention, because of everything that's playing out right now, all the different polarities and the accentuation of these polarities and everything else that has been playing out up to this point in time in such a fashion, it is very easy for us to be driven by the ego's operating system that kind of works on the back end of things. For example, what I'm talking about is that, while we're in the spell of what the ego operating system is saying us and really focusing on how we design our path forward, we don't see any of the other stuff that's going on. And this is the majority of the population is still in that state where you kind of what people call a sleep state, where you're in a trance state, where you are completely run by the operating system that is not our natural operating system. So the ego has a very powerful hold. However, as you start to become more open, things start to come more in line of sight for you, where you start realizing what's happening on the back end and the different agendas and so forth, that we now see, oh, we've been doing this or that, or something's being done to us or anything of that nature. And it's very easily going into the blame, very easy to go into the demonizing part. So if we demonize all the things that we are seeing as right, wrong, good, bad, punish, and all of that stuff, we're still supporting the operating system, the true operating system. So you're basically looking at the Lucifer operating system. It's reinforcing that. I'll put the operating system. And this is giving power to the ego, which is, let's say, an operating system or software, okay? Which is also known as AI. And its focus is basically 2D, completely asleep, which the majority of the population is still playing that part. 3D, where everything works backwards, within the inverted matrix, which no longer is around, but we still have that in operating system, and this does a really good job of that. So as long as we're demonizing, as long as we are putting the fact that we have to destroy all of this stuff or blame or have all of this stuff going on, then these are the things that have you by the hold. And this is why we can talk about, having people that are going into awakened state and then going into witch hunts and whatever else. So I just wanted to mention that. So we've come here really knowing all of this was in place. We also came here to realize that this is an opportune time. It doesn't matter when you came in, it is an opportune time for us to come and experience this operating system, fully integrated, with this software within our operating system, in this powerful mind that we have, that have many resources that it can tap into and can project out as a creation of reality in this beautiful movie that we're playing, but also to come in and experience it and transmute it. And that's the thing, you're coming here to redesign it. You're here to turn off the power and the focus of what this operating system that was offered 10,000 years ago, 10K years, turn that off by actually us. We don't realize how powerful we are just to turn this off, and then also to turn this off, which is the actual software in the mind, which is a small portion of what we are capable of doing. And that creates the illusion that we have no power. It creates the illusion that everything has power over you. It creates the illusion that others have say in the matter and you're kind of a prisoner or you're a victim or anything of that nature. It creates those illusions, which are just stories, programs, belief systems projected out into the mind, and it actually creates. So of course now we're going through a destabilizing experience at this point where this stuff is being deprogrammed from us. So in essence, we're becoming more of that. So as we're going into this state, we now become more self-governance, more self-directed. We get to see that we are these powerful creators and that we can shift all of this. So this is what we're doing. So far, what we're looking at, the program is so deep for us that the status quo is a way of life, becomes the status quo. This operating system and all the experiences that we've gained, that we have in our subconscious mind, all the references, all the focus and all of that right now in our memory. And this is why the purging of the past, the purging of memories, purging of the stories and so forth, because all of it was created in these fashion, is so important. Because what happens is we look at the past, we look at our subconscious memories, which are just memories, and the ego has a nice thing saying, hey, wait a minute. This is the history. This is how it works. This is the status quo. This is how it is. What are you talking about going outside of that, right? Not only that it's safe, but in one way or another, you can't step out of that. That's the name of the game. And that's so forth. So we have to realize that that is very active and you can easily acknowledge it. Oh, great. I understand. It doesn't matter what all of my experiences have been, what I have stored in my subconscious mind for the longest time. It does not matter. It doesn't matter what you're saying. I thank you, I love you, and I release you. I free you, I clear you, because it's not necessary any longer. So it becomes very, very important for us to really look at the base that it's using for us to keep us in the box or pattern and so forth that we've been playing. So it's just paying attention to it, because each time that you become more and more aware of this, you get into that level where you understand that in one way or another that you can actually easily shift all of that. And that's where we're going. So the other thing I wanted to also mention and to reinforce, the frequency that the planet, Earth, Gaia are presently in, the frequency coming from the sun, from the collective sun, stimulating a shift in changes of consciousness, neutralizing all this problem. So in fact, what we're saying is, what we are becoming more and more of, as our soul is transmitting more powerfully than before, that depth of consciousness, awareness, that source essence within yourself, that empowers you. But we also have a very powerful energy field coming from Gaia, from the earth, and all the sentient beings that are supporting us. And when I say sentient beings, this is all the animal kingdom, the insect world, the birds, the oceanic world, and so forth, the reptiles, and whatever else that is in our beautiful dance, including plant life and everything else, is all harmoniously singing in an energetic wave to kind of stimulate what we already have within ourselves. So we go in there. Plus, we're getting energies from the sun. We're getting energies from our collective, what do you call it? Or what we call the, galactic energies and the galactic frequencies that are coming through. And also the alignments of planets and so forth. All of it is very powerfully in stimulating the breakdown, the hold, the operating system of this, and it's also breaking this down within ourselves. All of this is participating and assisting us so that we get on track with our highest aspect of ourselves, what we've originally were designed to experience, what our planet was designed to. So all of this is coming through, and it's dissolving even all of our conditioning. And this is why even our belief systems are having less and less power over us. The stories that the ego will make is having less and less power. That doesn't mean that everybody's at the same level, because everybody's going through different stages of it. Even if it chips away from it, if it still has a strong hold, you may still experience it. But what's happening is that more and more of us are being so infused by all of this that any of the operating systems within ourselves, even the cellular structures, the key receivers within our cellular, because our cellular picks up these frequencies, are also changing. And it doesn't matter if there's all the different frequencies from EMFs and all of these other new devices and technologies and whatever else. A lot of it is being negated once you are aligned to a higher frequency. And that's happening as we're going through it, as we're purging it, because your vibration goes up. It's tuning, like the dial on each of the cells is dialing the energy receiving capacities within your operating system, not only as a physicality, but a human entity and soul. And the mind itself actually changes too. So it doesn't matter what encodements we may have had by all the exposures that we may have had through various EMFs, various transmissions of any sort, various what they call viruses or whatever else that's been out there, encodements and so forth. They become no longer even able to be turned on or to be active, but eventually they break down and dissolve because they're singles that do not function in your physicality. It doesn't function in your reality. In fact, your reality won't even be in a frequency that any of that would have any effect of the same way it had effect before, where it created some what we call polarized experiences, what we've created a lowering of frequency, going into fear and all of that stuff. So to keep in mind, with all of this going on, as long as we are empowering the stories that are coming in through the media and everything else, as long as we either demonize it, judge it, compare it, or feeling that in some way that is causing you a problem, then you're outside of your operating system, of the true operating system. So you're still going into that range where you're in the fight and flight. But when we go out of that, you could see the world whatever it is. It doesn't matter what the game is. You are still empowered and actually can disempower any input. So your reality will be at a frequency that is not. It becomes invisible, not only to you, but you're invisible to the dance of all the other ones that are playing at the lower frequencies. So it's like, you're tuning the dial on your radio. As soon as you change the frequency or the dial to tune into another frequency, the other frequency may still be there, but it's not being received by your radio or your TV or anything of that nature that uses that type of frequency dial. That's how we are. In fact, also there are levels and levels of different, what we can call chaotic nodes, chaotic operating systems, that as long as we're in that frequency, we're much more exposed to it. And then we are now more recipient to it. And now we have to deal with that. But as your vibration increases, and this is what we're doing, then those chaotic parts and all the chaos that's even reflected in the collective reality doesn't even affect you. So you become a powerful change agent versus a contributor of the old modalities, old operating systems. How do you do that? By really paying attention, observing what is driving you each moment, to pay attention to what is being stimulated within yourself, because what you want to do is you want to clear out those programs and belief systems and so forth, because then it doesn't have any power. But each time that the ego tries to create a story or project that story or reinforce that story, you say, I got you, I see you, I thank you, I love you, I free you. And you have to be very diligent with that, but not in a fight mode. You can be in a very playful mode. But if you're feeling any fear, you want to clear the fear part too. So you have to look at the fear, experience the fear, and go at it, look at it for what it is. Because when you're seeing it from the eyes of love, it dissolves. It doesn't have the same impact or anything of that nature. So every time the ego comes in and says, oh my God, it's here, it's coming back again, you say, oh, you're back for another round. Well, you know something? It's still no. We're not playing there. We're done. We're not playing. We're not playing. And the reason I use playing, because we're not going there. That's another thing. But we're not playing there. It really lightens up the energy, because play is play. Play is much more energetically lifting. And that's why we use the other tools of appreciation and love and seeing the beautiful dance. So then we go. So once you're paralyzed and driven by the program, you're still caught up in the program. So it's very key to keep that observation of yourself along the way, because a lot of people say, how can we move this through quickly? Well, it's just being in that observational mode, or as an observer. And as that observer, you can see when the ego is creating stories. You can see how much of it is from here. You can see what it's being brought out from your subconscious mind. You can see what operating system is playing out. By seeing it, you can recognize it. From recognizing, you have a choice. Do I give power to it? Do I go into the dance or not? But you're not going it through fear or feeling that it has power over you. You're going to see it as a very, okay, not interested. We're not going to even go there. Thank you, I love you, but we're done. But you do it in a very light fashion. So in the program, any consciousness that you may access will push polarization through. So even demonizing and discounting activity of fear and so forth, powerlessness, because you're not. So in the sense is, as your consciousness increases, as your awareness increases, because as an observer, you're more conscious. As an observer, you're going from an observer viewpoint from a heart-soul perspective. You're not doing it from the mind. The mind is active, involved in it, but at the same time, you're tapping into that part of you that is that powerful knowing of yourself. And then now when you're observing it, you can see it. It's like the stepping back into the observer of whatever's playing out. So anything that is playing out, as you step back, you get to see it. More you access that awareness and you see it for what it is, just a game, then you're accessing more consciousness, you become more empowered. But at the same time, what happens is it gets rid of, dissolves the polarization, the demonization, and the fear, because fear is very powerful and it comes up very much and makes us feel very powerless. Because once we're in the dance of fear, as you know, you become powerless. A lot of times you become victim, a lot of times you're in a powerless state, or both, or you feel that in some way that everything has control over you, right? So by going out of that, because anytime you have the fear, like I said, you're going to look at it and look at it with love, look at it with appreciation, and then it dissolves. So then you're outside of that, because the operating system will use fear very powerfully. And we get trained. We get trained to be afraid. We get trained to be powerless. How does that be? As a kid, when we start off as a child, we are already dictated on rules. What is acceptable, what's not acceptable, what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, what is limits. This is how it operates. You got to follow this. Then you got to go through education. You got to go through all different levels of conditioning and then exposed to the various resources that keep reinforcing it. So what we're doing as a child, we start through this training and conditioning to be obedient, to through this conditioning to follow a certain pattern of way of life. Okay, so it relates back to the story of the elephant. You take a baby elephant and you tie it to a really powerful pole, and what it does is it tries to break free, but the pole is overwhelming because of the power it has, and it just keeps tugging away, and then it finally gets conditioned that, okay, as long as that rope's on me, I can't move it. Over time, what happens is that the elephant becomes this huge, powerful animal and is capable of pulling down and breaking the rope or doing anything in nature. But now you can see these elephants tied down to a little peg with a rope. And what happens is it doesn't even realize that it can break out of it or can actually pull that whole thing out. So that's the conditioning, and that's what's happened to us, and what we've adopted as part of our experience. We've adopted this conditioning that I'm helpless, powerless, that the system is the almighty, because we have this idea that this thing is bigger than I am, it's more powerful than I am, has no say, so you feel that tied down. And what we're doing right now is coming to the realization, and very few of us have come to that level of realization, because more and more are, but in different stages, the realization that all of this is made up, that we don't even have to give any power to it. This thing that I thought was just so powerful and so overwhelming and that I had no say in the matter is not even real. It's an illusion. It's a conditioning response that we have. So we're conditioned to feel limited. We're conditioned to be powerless. We're conditioned so that in one way or another, we just follow and cannot lead ourselves. We cannot think for ourselves. We cannot govern our life for ourselves. That we in some way can't step out of any box or a limitation of any sort because we're conditioned to believe that. Now that was part of the experience. I'll bring this back in again. It was part of the experience. It was never designed for us to hold us in that experience completely, even though we've done so for 10,000 years. But now we're coming to the point of realizing that those conditions were part of the journey, but are no longer applicable, no longer a requirement. Not that it ever was a requirement, but at this point in time, it's not even a requirement at this time, saying, well, now I have the option, do I play here? The other thing is the conditioning that we have had that we also have to override, which is in the sense of conditioning, feeling that we need to be accepted by others, loved by others, that we have to follow other people's rules, or that we somehow have to fit into a certain tradition, idea, religious upbringing, whatever it may be, cultural or genetics, or not even genetics, but gender or anything of that nature, and all the different protocols. That's still a conditioning, because really we take on a very basic operating system when we come in as a child, because of course we're taking in mom and dad's genetic encodements or whatever else and already pre-programming, but that is very, very minimal in its impact. It's only when you are exposed to the various surrounding conditions and the depth of it that we become conditioned to follow those protocols. So sometimes we say, well, okay, I want to let go of the systems protocol, but you find it hard to let go of your family dynamics protocol or groups that you're in or anything of that nature. Well, it's all one and the same. See, the thing is, you have the choice to decide at any point in time how much power and how much do I shape my reality from now. You have to look at it from now. We're not talking about what happened up to this point in time, because we were in different stages of awareness and observation and so forth. But right now, how much power do I give to all of these preconditions that I've received over a period of time? How much do I hold on to whatever I've been conditioned or taught to be? How much importance am I going to give to these various organizations, meaning family dynamic organization, work organization, friendship organization, systematic organizations? What we're talking about systems and laws and whatever educational ideas and media, whatever else that we put power to it. We have the choice of that. How much do I bring still that into me? And this is why it becomes so instrumental and powerful to see, okay, does this still resonate for me today? And you say this every day. Today, does this still fit in? Does it still feel conducive? Does it still feel like something I need to do that? Now, the thing you have to pay attention to, if it brings up fear of stepping out of it, then you know what's running. This. So in essence, you say, oh, I got fear. Great, I'm going to look at the fear and I know where it's coming from, because all fear is generated from anything from the past that is used through this operating system, or what we can call software that is in my mind that's creating this illusionary fear or anything of that nature. A fear of losing friendship, losing a job, losing family, losing a partner, losing something of that nature. You know where it's coming from, that because your higher self, it's time to be yourself 150% and forget about the rest of it. But then what you're doing, like I say, each moment you're looking at how much of this resonates, because at that point you want to look at, does this still fit into my current reality? Or that current reality is still within a confine. Now you can choose to be in that confine, no problem, but it has to feel comfortable. So when you're looking at it, say, do I still fit in there? Do I want to still go in the box? Yeah, you can have your, you can have your door. You can walk out. You can walk out. But you can also walk back in. But every time that you walk back in, what does that mean? Every time you adopt that particular tradition, idea, concept, idea of what it means to be this or that or anything of that nature, you have to pay attention, because every time you go back into the box, you want to look at the box and see, how does it feel to be in the box? How does it feel for me to go and play with these individuals right now at the game that they're putting? Now, you can go in the box and say, okay, I'm going to go into the box, but I'm not buying the box. I'm going to still be myself. But again, you have to also see how much of that resonates for any period of time, because at some point you say, well, I still have to come into this box. This box doesn't even resonate for me anymore. I don't want to be part of it. So you don't. But there's no judgment about it. There's no right, wrong, good, bad about it. But it's paying attention. So that's a small analogy or small example. But what we're looking at is that anything that we have from our experience and what is being projected as a reality in our worldscape of whatever's going on and all the individuals involved, you need to check on a regular basis, daily, even sometimes hourly along the way. Does this resonate? Because how many of us are still doing things that really do not resonate, and then we get to the point where either our health has to break down, or that the fact in one way or another that we have certain intensities that come up for us that we have no choice but to drop it. But if we actually want to be active and moving without having all of those consequences or all of those trigger points or those kicks in the butt coming in, then you're looking at it and say, okay, does this resonate anymore? Now, of course, the resonating part is resonating, meaning does it feel that I'm in alignment with this? It's not about, oh, they're horrible to me or anything. You want to be neutral in the sense where whatever role they're playing does not affect you one way or another. It doesn't affect you positive or negative, but it feels natural for you one way or another to say, do I participate, don't participate, do I play, I don't play, whatever I choose to do. So this is what you're looking at. So each step of the way, you always go, okay, how does this feel for me today? So you could be at work, you could be with a family dynamics and say, am I forcing myself to be here right now? Now, of course, if you got emotions coming up, you want to address the emotions because you want to be in that neutral state. But then you're looking at it and say, does it feel good for me to be here right now? Okay? Does it feel that in one way or another? There's no judgment about it, but it's a sense of, does this align with me? Or am I actually done with this? So that way you can expedite the changes and the deprogramming of yourself. Because a lot of times what happens is we hold on, okay, saying, okay, it's only for a little while longer, it's only for a little while longer. And we don't realize how much of that is having an impact on us, even though there's so many cues that we feel within ourselves. And then finally, you get to the point of saying it's done or something changes, and you go, oh my God, I don't know how I lasted this long. How did I hold on to that? And then you go through a purging process, and it's like I got to take the suit off, this energetic suit that I've been holding on, this facade, this layers of pretending to be something that I'm not, because that's not my true expression. And then you're like, I got to take a shower, energetic shower of some sort to purge all of that out, clear it out from myself or clear it out from ourselves, right? So that gives you an indication. So you don't want to get to that position. So you're now attentive to look at it, because that's how you speed through. And when I say speed through, you move, you flow through the changes that are going through. Because a lot of times what happens is we want change, but then we want everything to change around us before we change. Because the ego says, okay, we got to make sure everything is proper, everything is in a line in a certain way, and then we can take a baby step. And then we're going to have to monitor and do that. But the purpose of this is to slow you down or paralyze you as much as possible so that you do not figure it out. You do not get out of the box. And there's layers and layers and layers and layers of boxes that we can get into. So right now, the game that's playing out at this point is, how much power am I going to give to it, right? And you say, okay, does it resonate for me to watch this? Or does it resonate for me to give power to this, or pay attention to this, or to, put the right, wrong, good, bad, or anything of that nature? And I'm going to cover a little bit more as we get to closer to the end of this. But looking at it, you're really becoming more active in the redesigning, because a lot of times we say, well, how do I become more active to redesign my life? The first instrumental key part is that we cannot, in any way, shape, or form, give power to the idea that, okay, this is bigger than I am, or that in one way or another there's a time sequence of some sort that I got to put in my time, or whatever it is. You don't want to go there, because that's still part of an operating system. Or that, and somehow, all of this has to change before I can change. No, you go into, how do I design this reality? How do I design my experience of life? You step into that observation point where you're feeling much more in alignment with yourself in that capacity to create. Right now, it doesn't matter what's going on. How do I see the world? What's coming through me at this point? And that's the part you start to experience, to start to imagine, you start to reflect energetically and otherwise through your actions, through the way you look at it. But you're not in fight mode, you're just in enlightened mode. So there's fight mode and enlightened mode. Fight mode is in low frequency, and it's fighting polarities, is fighting right, wrong, good, bad. Enlightened mode sees the perfection in all of it, but it's going into an enlightened state of a realization and awareness of a self-empowerment, self-governance, and self-creation. So in that way, it really creates something that is much more matching the grand aspect of yourself that you came here to be, to express, to experience, to share with other aspects of yourself. So the process that we're going through at this time is becoming more and more aware of who we are, how powerful we are, and how we can actually reshape every part of it. We're going through a process of realizing that we are self-directing, that we do not need other directions. Now we can learn from one another and so forth, but we are really shaping our world ourselves. No one can shape our life. Let me say that again. No one can shape our life. You could turn around and say, well, my life is shaped because of my parents, my upbringing, my education, my whatever. Yes, you can say, I adopted the different ideas and so forth, and then I shaped my life around it. That means you've accepted it, and then you designed the world that you live. We made the choice. There's no mistake. You have to keep that in mind. But we made the choice. What teachings, what sharing, what modalities that we adopted and shaped our life around it. So our life cannot be shaped by anyone else. It could be offered in many, many ways, but we're the ones that are actually shaping it. We have to keep that in mind. We are the ones that shape it. No one else can. No one else can direct it. We're the only ones. It's just offerings. We're offering this way of life. This was an offering. This operating system was an offering. This was an offering, all of this. We've adopted it. But we're noticing every part of our lives is the same thing. It's an offering, but we are the ones that adopt it and utilize it. So if we take on a belief, okay, we're going to take on the belief. And we're going to experience what that belief will provide us. But we're the ones that made the choice. And sometimes you could turn around and say, the ego will say, well, we never made a choice. I don't remember making a choice. I don't remember making an agreement in any way, shape, or form around that. But that's just smoke and mirrors. In fact, from a higher perspective and other different levels of perspective, you say, okay, let's try it out. Let's see what it's like. I came here to experience it. I came here to learn from it and then go into the transmuting, transforming, and rewriting the operating system so that we can be part of a grander purpose. So just so that you know, our current world is not shaped by certain elites or whatever it is. It was provided to us. We adopted it, and we adopted it by sharing it to other levels of reincarnational aspects of ourselves and all the other playmates that have come into our lives. All of them has stepped into it step by step by step, saying we passed it on, but each one of us had the opportunity to take it on or not. Now, if we came into a point where we felt very disempowered, we felt, well, I got to buy these ideas and take it on. But that's just that. It was just you bought into the idea, you took it on, you experienced it, but now you're moving through it. So, most certainly, agendas that have been constructed to reshape our direction of life and self-govern through fear and isolation and so forth prepared us to restrict ourselves even more. So all that is playing out right now is just amplifying, intensifying the self-restriction. Because it doesn't matter what is being said, it does not matter how it's being played out or anything of that nature. It's really us to adopt it and see that we comply, we agree upon, we consent to that, and then play the game. Only to intensify the restrictions. So if you can't see yourself in jail, in this box, okay? So if you don't see yourself, let's fix this up here. So here's your box, here's you, let's put you, here's you or us or whatever it is. So if you've gotten enough comfortableness in that box, what's happening now is made the box even smaller so that you can realize that you are even more restricted. So here we are locked into our houses, not able to go to work and do other things. Now there's two parts to that anyways, but I'll explain it as I already have, but I'll just go through it again. But you have to understand all of this is coming to let me make the box even smaller, and not only that, make it much more transparent that we are really telling you that what we're telling you is not even real. That's not the game of life. That's not how it works. But I want to put you in such a position you finally say, okay, I now see it. I have a choice. Do I give power to it? Do I shift it? Do I step out of it? In that empowered state. So what we're really doing is we've now confined ourselves even more for that restriction. So there's the two parts. One, to see that we have been living a disempowered state, that we have bought into restrictions, and the restrictions, as they become more, what we call that level of governance and rules become smaller and smaller. You also realize, wait a minute, now this is getting like our attention, because there's a dual thing here. This box may have felt confined. However, with the energies that are coming forth. And what we've been experiencing since 1987 and all the different stages up to now, and much more incredibly intensified now and much more apparent more than ever, we started to realize that, first of all, that we are in a box, because most of us have been not able to even see that there was a box. Now we're seeing the box in a big way. It's like, wow, we're in a box. And not only are we in a box, we're starting to feel uncomfortable in the box. And that's what we've been feeling. Because this box represents all the rules and adopted conditions and ideas that have been operating through this operating system, and that has been reinforced with this within ourselves in this small inverted, let's write the matrix part, inverted matrix, inverted 3D and 2D state. So now, with all of this that's coming up, we're coming more observant, much more feeling that contrast and so forth, that you're realizing that the box is there. And not only is the box is getting uncomfortable. The box is getting to a point where, you know something, I'm not feeling comfortable in this box because I'm feeling constricted. I'm feeling claustrophobic because I can't really express myself while I'm in the box. I cannot live my truest essence while I'm in the box. But now look at what happened. The end of last year, going into this year, and where we are currently now, we're in the smaller box. So what's happening? Two things. We're becoming more aware of the box, more and more, and then the box is getting tighter and tighter, smaller and smaller. Now that's creating such a powerful realization, a very powerful observation that we're in the box. And the only way that this box can exist is for us to agree to be in the box. Agree, consent, accept. Yes, this is creating fear in a big way, that it's dangerous to step out of these boxes. It's dangerous. This thing is going to get you. You're going to get arrested. You're going to die. You're going to have all of this stuff. So this is on overdrive, on steroids, pushing the fear. And self-imprisonment. Because the moment the fear comes in, you're in prison even more. You're afraid to step out. You're afraid to make free choices. You're now glued to get all as much input as possible to reinforce this fear, because what's happening, this is becoming so freaking uncomfortable for you that this has to be really, the fear factor has to be elevated to such a degree that you wouldn't dare step outside. So you're going to put on 10 freaking masks. You're going to put on a suit with oxygen tanks and whatever else. You're going to go to that extreme because this is what it's pushing. But at the same time, we have a polarized aspect, which is a full spectrum part of it, is saying, this is not real. We have the freedom to step out of it. We don't even have to give any power to it. Which basically is breaking down this operating system. And that part of it is saying, you know, you're the higher self. You're the master creator. You have freedom. You always had. You're coming to the realization. So that's what's giving you the opportunity to say, I don't care about this fear. I'm going to look at it. In fact, it's going to be eye to eye, not who's stronger. I'm just going to look at this illusionary fear that's being projected, this monster. Because this fear says it's going to get you. Your higher self says, what do you mean? Unless we choose to give power to it and choose to have a particular experience, nothing will happen to us. We have the freedom. Always did, always will. So this is what's happening. And this is why a lot more people are getting more and more restless and now saying, enough is enough. This box is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And not only that, it's increasing the timeline. Well, you know, we sucked it up for a little while, but now what? It's going to go longer, and it's going to be whatever, and then the only key out is some type of, little thing that gets plugged into your body and injecting some chemical and so forth before we can get out of this thing. The point is, it's just bringing to that level of insanity, what looks like insanity. It's really just testing you. Hey, you want to see these boxes? I'm going to show it to you every way possible until you turn around and say, no more. We're done. We're not playing here anymore. We're not even going to fight you. We appreciate you. We love you. We take you out of the equation. We relieve you of your responsibility. We relieve you from the roles that you've taken on. Because in fact, it doesn't matter. We are the ones that are self-empowered. We are the ones that are making a choice. Then we're able to shift and even further. So this is what's been playing out all this time. So what we've been conditioned to do, just so that we understand it, to put the frame along it, we have programmed ourselves to restrict one another, to judge one another, to be afraid of one another, not to be in contact with one another. But at the same time, this just does one thing for us. It just pushes harder and harder against those walls for us to say, enough is enough. Really, to get to that deeper realization that this is an illusion. Okay? Unless this happened, all of that we're experiencing right now, like I said, not only the increasing of energies coming through and awareness and then making the small, we're still in a mesmerized state of playing the game. If we don't get off the treadmill, if we don't get off the hamster cage, if we don't get off the, what can we call it, roller coaster ride for a short period of time, guess what? We never get a chance to look at it by stepping back. And this is the key here, is we've now created this perfect scenario that we are becoming more. Look at the difference that's going on. It doesn't matter how much the mainstream stuff is flowing in and all these characters that are saying, oh my God, this is this and this is that and we got to follow this and whatever it is. Okay? And I'll throw in a little thing at the end. Just remind me that I had to throw in something at the end. Okay. Of course, we'll cover it in another episode. But in essence, when we're looking at all of this, when we look at all of this coming in, by plugging it all in, it's saying we're getting all this stuff in the main media and whatever else. Look at how much opposite we're getting. The other side, the back end part of it. More and more people are realizing and sharing in a big way. And then look, as they share more of what really is happening, there's more restriction applied. Unplugged. Unplugging people from getting even online. Or, taking their videos or whatever it is offline. What is that? It's a further indication. Hey, wait a minute here. We want you to realize that we're still trying to control you. Just so that we come to the realization more and more quickly and saying, okay, this other stuff, it's actually reversed. Because look at it this way. This inverted matrix, this inverted 3D, that's why I draw it backwards. Might have to replenish this one. Inverted 3D is, look, some of you have heard this idea of fake news. Well, look at it this way. Talking about inverted. And I've been saying inverted for years now. Inverted matrix, inverted way of life. All our systems work that way. So here we are, we're having fake news coming through the media channels, the common media channels, which are protected and they can do whatever and say whatever. Then The other stuff that's coming in that actually are the forerunners, the ones that are actually seeing what's happening and exposing it, they're labeled as fake news. So it's reversed. The fake news is real news, or projected as real news. The fake news, the one that's projected as fake news, is actually the real news. Real people that are observing certain things. Yeah, okay, they might be polarized and whatever else. They were looking at some of those things. But at the same time, when you really look at it, you can see how everything is in reverse. And we'll get into that with different episodes. So, the other thing I wanted to cover, social media has been used the same way to shape our reality, to make us believe whatever the agenda for us to believe in. That there's a certain code of ethics, and those codes of ethics are all based on that. Constantly looking at something unnatural starts to feel more and more natural for us. But as we continue to look at what is unnatural and becomes more uncomfortable, we prepare ourselves to shift. So here we are. This is natural. This is the right way. This is our human nature. Hear that a lot. This is our human nature. We're violent. We're competitive. We take advantage of one another. We're greedy. We believe that we have to fight one another and whatever else, that it's a world of survival. And then we say, oh, look, the animal kingdom does that and whatever. Do you ever imagine that the animal kingdom may be reflecting our operating system? So we start to realize that that is not our true human nature. Our true human nature is very loving, very cooperative, very, harmoniously creating environments for all aspects of ourselves to flourish, to connect with one another, to love one another, to play with one another, to expand one another, to become more enlightened together, to create new and higher levels of realities. It's not about playing small, it's about playing bigger and bigger, accentuating our experience, our creativity, our imagination, our gifting. We all come in. You have to understand that our body are evolving constantly and very adaptive to our environment. Our human entity is, each an incarnation is expanding from the previous and carries a whole history of hosting of an enlightened states. And the souls are coming in more and more of higher dimensional consciousness, higher dimensional experiences, and with access more and more of source essence. So if you really look at it, we are really expanding in a huge way in compared to the smaller game that we've been playing. So all of it is in alignment with that. We're just living in this illusionary box that we're, at this point in time, have been slowly inching away with it. Now we're moving exponentially in a big way to dissolve it. So this is why you see a lot more of the polarity. This is why you see the accentuation not only of polarity, but even all the role players that have what people have referred to as played a negative role, which again may look that way, may be still part of polarization, yes, absolutely, but at the same time, not only there's a code of ethics that says we need to let you know what we're doing, we actually have to tell you in so many ways. We have to actually make it so clear and transparent that that whatever we're telling you, you have to see the real message behind it. This is why you're seeing that the role players are inconsistent, are very fluctuating, are in one way or another not even showing in a very instrumental way of being. Like, for example, the Wizard of Oz, when we had the wizard himself behind the curtain while operating this big machine that makes it look like something big and powerful. And then, of course, the curtain gets moved. Now you can see the role players there. You know what's happened right now? That curtain is still there, but it's been replaced with a see-through shower curtain. It's behind the curtain, but the curtain is transparent. You can see what is being done. That's what's changed. So you could see that the underlining theme, story, and so forth is not that well hidden. I'm saying this, but look, you can see all of this, where it's coming from. And not only fact that we're showing, like for example, the media itself, the news media and so forth, have been for the longest time, saying different stories and whatever else, building around a specific agenda and story. Now it's become so apparent. You can shift from channel to channel, watch every single one, and they're all saying the exact same words. It's like, hey, we want to let you know we're just following a script. We're not coming from any form of authority. You just put us there that we're authority, that we are saying something, but we're making it so transparent that we are all following a script, which you couldn't see before. Now it's everywhere. And there are many people that have pointed it out online where you actually see the same words from all the different channels and the different speakers and the different newscasters or whatever you want to talk about it. That's that transparent freaking curtain. We're making it clear. You can see it. This is the thing. Look at the beautiful dance that we're in. Okay, so I just wanted to touch bases again so that we understand. This whole idea that we've been living 3D and we're going into 5D is a misconception. I'm not here to deny it. It's just difficult to understand at times. This idea that we've been living into 3D and going into 5D because, you know something? 3D is what we've been living. And if you want to go to Nirvana, you got to go to 5D. That's the idea. Nirvana is anywhere. But I can tell you right now, what we've been living is the inverted matrix, and I've said this many times, in the 2D inverted 3D. So we're actually going from inverted 3D to organic 3D, which we're already on that platform, and organic 5D. Both are a huge leap forward from what we've been playing. Not that this is demonized as bad or hellhole, and this is, heaven. No, this supports more who we are and what we have chosen to do. Now, you came here when all of this was all very active because you wanted to. You wanted to have this experience. You wanted to get your bearings in that so that you can now transmute it into organic 3D and 5D. Now, even the organic 3D is only there temporarily for us just to go from that, just to have that experience. And the difference between the two, you're still in physical form. It's just that in organic 3D, we have more attention to the physical experience while you're in a spiritual understanding and knowledge of sourceness. So you're basically a human having what you call a spiritual experience or source experience, where here you're source experiencing having a human experience. Or source essence having a human experience, where here you're a human having a source experience. That's all the difference is. So the focus on how much power and expression and experience you have between physical and non-physical is just a little bit different. But both are huge upgrades of what we've been playing. None of the stuff works backwards. So in either of these, we are no longer creating all of these polarization, all of this stuff. And a lot of people say, yeah, we live in a world that is polarized, and that's the fact. Well, the thing is, it's true that we've given a lot of power to the polarization and a lot of influence on the polarization and so forth. And we're going to play a little bit more of the polarization until as we purge all of this stuff. But we realize we do not require polarization. There's going to always be a certain level of polarization, but not extremes. Organic 3D has polarization, but small variations just to kind of try different things. Not polarization of separation, polarization to the point of, right, wrong, good, bad, black, white, dark, light, and all of that stuff to the degree that we've been playing. It's very minor. It says, well, I'm going to play a little bit of this side, or I'm going to play a little bit of that side, but it's small variation. But our true center point, our home base, our what we call default, our default is neutrality. Our default is 0 point. Our default is source essence. Default is oneness. But we can play on both sides, bit in restricted, not restricted, but self-governed polarity. So the other thing I wanted to bring up, because we're doing kind of a recap here. So a lot of people say, well, how do I have power to say no to support a particular agenda, a particular whatever? Well, I've said this many times. There's two types of no's. One is no, that is fear-based. No, I don't want that. No, that I feel disempowered, or that it's dangerous, or that in one way or another it's going to harm me, or the fact that I don't like it. It's what we can call judgmental no. Fear-based no. It's the no that comes from this. No, I don't want that experience. No, I don't want to be in this relationship. No, I don't want to be on the planet anymore. No, I don't want to do all that. That's all loaded with fear. That is all loaded with polarity. Good, bad, right, wrong, dark, light. That type of no. You're saying no to this because I want this. Right? It's still polarity. But when you're in the no, you're in an empowered state where there's no fear whatsoever. That no is not a no, I detest to it, or I reject it, or anything of that nature. It's a no of a preference level saying, you know something? No, I am not interested. No, I am not consenting because it's not something of interest to me. It's not something I want to give power to anymore. It's nothing that I want to engage in. And this has been experimented on so many levels. And I've worked with many people, and others have done the same thing. When you have come to the point of saying something is offered to you, and you say, not interested, no, and you're not resisting it, it's no. That engagement can't continue. Now, if it does continue, it's because you've still got some reservations about it. Should I say no or not? Whatever. Am I going to be still liked? Am I going to be still, this or that? So this whole idea of saying no is because, you know something? It does not resonate. So you can be invited, you can be whatever, and you're going to go, oh, I want to say no because I don't want to go, and it makes me feel bad or anything like that. You're still in fear. You're still through the operating system and program, which is all generated from this. But when you're saying, you know something, it doesn't resonate with me, so no, I'm not participating, no, I'm not going to engage, or anything of that nature. So even if you're being pushed around, what looks like pushed around and whatever else, and you say, no, not interested, and walk away from a non-fear-based or survival, flight or fight way, then that operating system of that other individual cannot engage. Because from that no, it's from a higher perspective, say, no, we're not playing there, not interested. The offering will come only a few times, and eventually that doesn't even, because the two don't even align anymore energetically, don't align the frequencies so you can see each other. So the game is no longer played. So, one other statement I would like to make. No one can stop you. You're just convinced to stop yourselves. No one can stop you. You're only convinced to stop yourself. That's huge. I'm stopped from doing whatever I want to do. No, you're convinced. You adopt the idea that I can be stopped, that I have to follow those rules, or that I don't have the same capacities of access as before. So that's the thing, is the system, this operating system, with this software within you, is saying over and over again, we have power over you. They have power over you, that you have no say or anything of that nature. And then what we do is we comply, and we really are stopping ourselves. How many times have you been said, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. And a lot of times we buy into it and say, okay, I can't do that. Or that you don't take the action you want to take because somebody, a friend, family, whoever, or even your ego, which is all, they're all working together, saying, oh, you can't do that, you can't do that. But you have enough of that essence within yourself and say, you know something, I don't care what you say. I'm going to do it anyways because you feel from inside, I need to do this. Doesn't matter of the fear, doesn't matter of the ideas, stories, programs, and belief system that the ego is projecting or others are telling you. Remember, the others are working with your ego and they're only assisting you so that you get to that point of that strength and knowing, saying, hey, wait a minute, I'm not supporting that. Okay? I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do because it's my choice. So some of you have done that in your life. It doesn't matter how many people said no. It doesn't matter how many people said, oh, you can't do it. It's not acceptable, whatever it is. You're not following the rules or whatever it is. But if you feel inside, you know something, not interested, I'm going to do what I want to do. And that's how it works. So more and more of us, you know, are getting to the point of realizing, hey, wait a minute, I don't have to agree to anything because I am self-empowered, I am self-governing, I am the designer of my reality. And if I accept any of these other inputs, I'm just plugging it in as part of my reality. But that's an option. It's a freedom that you have, that free will that you're talking about. I'm choosing to bring that in or not. That's really the bottom line. Do I accept it or not? Do I bring it in or not? It's my choice. Do I plug it in as part of my creation? That's how it is. Okay, so the other thing, viruses are created so we feel vulnerable, afraid, out of our harmony. Most viruses are manufactured. Pretty bold statements. Everything is manufactured. Everything is created. Nature only complies to what we create, what we put focus on, an idea. So this operating says, oh, there's such a thing out there. This accepts it and says, okay, guess what? This is real. But it's a made-up concept. What is a virus? What is any of this stuff? Even the one that's running around now, it's not even that. It's just codes. They're all codes. Codes that take a form of self-governance, or codes that have to attach to something else to give, given power to it to do anything else. But it's still energetic fields. It's still energetic, whatever you want to call it. So if you realize all of that, you realize that at one point or another, this has been manufactured to kind of make us buy into the idea until we come to the point, which we are starting to realize more and more, that we don't have to give any power to this. We don't even have to put any attention to this. Because ultimately, I'm the one that can turn it on and off, accept it or not accept it, as part of my experience or not. So all of the stuff that is being out there, and even those codes that are being offered, because there's tons of it being streamed in all ways and forms and shapes, and ingested and whatever else, they're just codes. They're just operating components of instructions that are given to your body or to any part of you that you either adopt or not, utilize or not, you choose to play with it or not. You have the freedom. This is the thing. And whenever we adopt it, guess what happens? We feel vulnerable. We feel that we have no power. We have no control. We have no say in the matter. That it's going to, destroy us or anything of that nature. But it's just that. It's just the idea that makes us feel vulnerable. And this works so hand in hand in our operating system to give force and power to it and realism. It's illusionary realism, but it still makes it look real. And it takes us out of our natural state. We're harmonious playmates or players, but it kind of creates something different outside of it. Okay, so the ego mind creates illusions that what we're used to, what is everybody's status quo, what we're used to because we've done it before, creates this illusion that because we've done it before, it doesn't matter if it's in this box, it doesn't matter if it's in this box, but we've done it for so long. That is safe. That is safety. Because it says the illusion of the ego mind, which is its operating system that comes from this, says it's dangerous outside of this confined or box. And look, this box has a lot of playmates in it and a lot of stories, programs, and belief systems that reinforce the safety there. And this also says the other thing is, getting out of the box is not only dangerous, it's detrimental to you, but getting out of the box is part of change. Any change out of the norm is dangerous. This is why people fear change. Because the ego mind also gives you the illusion, if you don't know where you are going, you don't know and are assured what the next step is, that's dangerous. You need to be afraid of change. Because the ego likes to use the past. It says, well, maybe it may have been uncomfortable to do this over and over again, but, we know what the results are. If you follow these same steps, we're going to be okay because it's in the realm that we've already have a lot of experience in. Yeah, maybe it sucks. Maybe it's not fun. It's not convenient because, we're in this box, but we feel safe and we're nurtured and whatever else. It's all an illusion. So using the familiarity keeps us in a specific pattern. So as long as we stay with the familiar, we're going to be locked up in the pattern. And of course, familiarity keeps you in the pattern, but the pattern is also saying outside of that pattern is called the unknown, and unknown is scary. The unknown is someplace you don't go. This is why you would hold on to a particular way of life, a relationship, a connection, and so forth, even when you have grown it, even when it feels super uncomfortable because it no longer resonates with you, it no longer supports the energy that you're going in. Oh my God, can't leave there because I'm going to the ego is going to say, well, if you step out of there, you're going into danger zone. You don't know what the next relationship is going to be. You can't manage by yourself. You need your family. You need your friends. You need your job. You need all of this because this is secure. Sucks, but secure. Sucks, but secure. It just keeps saying things of that nature. Because the thing that the ego mind likes to say, I am here to protect you. I look after you. Because what do? I have a software program in me that tells you, look, we have lots of storage of information from the subconscious mind. This comes from your own previous experiences. This comes from everything that you've been taught, conditioned to believe. This comes from everything that you've learned from the media, observed from the media. This is from what it observed from one another. It comes from whatever the education has spewed out. All of that stuff, and says, see, we have a backup. But not only that, it's not only this. Look at all the examples around you. Everybody is walking around doing the same thing. So that's secure. That's safe. That's, you're not going to be in jeopardy. Even though there's certain circumstances to play out, it's better to be there. So the unknown is something we don't look at. Because then you're outside of my protection. But it's illusionary protection, illusionary idea of safety, because when you become more aware, as many of you are, you realize that you are the creator. You are the one that designs every step of your life. You're the one that plugs in a positive, negative program, even though it has no judgment about it being positive or negative. You are the one that plugs in certain experiences with the very motive of advancing, of growing to become more expansive. That's all. So you're looking at that and you're saying, okay, you know something? I understand the game. But I choose no longer to participate in that whole idea that this is projecting the ego mind. I'm not going to go into giving any more power to it. So this is the thing. So what we're doing is stepping out of that. So the next thing we can look at is evil showing up as a projection in our mind. So evil and fear is a construct that is projected in our mind based on what we've experienced, learned, and exposed ourselves to whatever resources. So as long as we have a construct of what something is dangerous, scary, or feeling that in one way is evil, the ego mind will create the illusion and shape it around that. It uses your archives of what it stored from the subconscious mind to create what we call a boogeyman, or a boogie something, or a reality. It uses those resources. So you have to see it that whatever, because everybody has different levels of fear, different levels of disempowerment, different levels of acknowledging something being affecting them in a negative way. But it's all projected. So in fact is a negative energy of any sort showing up will show up in different forms, in different ways for different people. And it's just realizing that and coming to that point. Oh, I see it this way because your experience may be somewhat different. You may have put more interest and more attention to certain things that you've watched, or been exposed to different things, or labeled it differently. It's all been happening on the back end. When we actually go into the state of love, we are, in that point, in a very powerful state. Because as stepping into love, we're going into higher range of frequency. In that frequency, we also access more consciousness. We access more source essence, source capacity of creation. You see yourself more as a creator in that state of love. We're not talking about love from a human ego perspective, because there is love from a human perspective of the ego, which is love, hate, polarized, very much so. Then there's unconditional love, where you kind of say, okay, I love you unconditionally, so there's still a human component to that. And then we're talking about ultimate love. Ultimate love, we're talking about source essence, source energy, creator essence. That love actually, in one way or another, raises you to such a frequency that you see perfection in all of it, and you're really now activating the source essence of yourself, creator essence of yourself, and the empowered state of yourself. So whatever's going out, it doesn't matter what this is spewing out, doesn't matter what this has as archive, it doesn't matter what this operating is saying and being projected. You see it very differently. You see it from a source point, where you see that this is just a game, and you see it that you are really navigating any part of it. You can plug and unplug any part of it. This is why we're using love as part of our meditation, because then you're going into source essence. And now the one that's coming up on the Saturday is love and oneness, which is basically that top pinnacle of source essence, because source is always one. Everybody is one. One essence, creating multiple expressions and experiences at different frequencies and different consciousness and different dimensions and different layers of holographic projections of not only physicalities but playgrounds and other engagements of other playgrounds. And we have worlds over worlds over worlds and different ways of experiencing it, but then you're seeing it from that. So you're looking at from love as a creator essence and oneness as one all aspects, because the oneness also sees us that we're all one within each other, not only one within our physicality, what we call oneness within all aspects of ourselves and as an individualized expression of a signature, but also oneness within everything, being Gaia, everything on the planet and every other sentient being and every facet of ourselves, which are other aspects in human form and in non-human form that are engaging with us at all point in time. And that just expands further and further, everything in our solar system, our galaxy, and our universe. So, okay. So now we're going to do a quick overview. How are we doing, girl? We're good. Okay. So here's the overview. The Lucifer operating system with the, what we call the Satan software, ego, and so forth, is something that we've agreed and adopted for a period of time. Yes, it lasted 10,000 years. Yes, it is now going through the process of deprogramming, destabilizing. Even the ones that have actually written the code stop streaming new codes because all of that, the stuff that supported it is gone. So in essence, giving us the opportunity to become more and more that essence of ourselves. So you understand, this is just an operating system that was introduced 10,000 years ago. It was not the original design. It was not in any way, shape, or form part of the retooling. It was never part of our operating system on a physical plane or this holographic projection, which we call human physicality, and everything else, because all the sentient beings are also been modified with this operating system. The functionality of Gaia and all of that was all designed. So that was all introduced 10,000 years ago. It was never our natural operating system. And that's why we're going back to our operating system, because as much as we've taken this on, we're finding it that it's no longer necessary. And then the ones that actually embodied it actually became hybrids and took on that operating system, this particular operating system, and became hybrids and so forth. And they called themselves Luciferian because they used that as the main operating system, which was a massive polarization from or a disconnect from sourceness, to the point of one creates, one destroys. That's the difference. This does everything to destroy. The source essence is about creation. Now, all of it comes from the same source, so nothing can be destroyed, but the experience would look like all of that. So this part of it, as much as it has been introduced, is not our natural state, and that's why it's being purged. And so was the ego mind, was not any part of our operating system. Our mind did not have an ego operating system in there. The mind is a powerful computer. It is the part that actually lets us see holographic expressions as real. Okay? It's an interpreter program that actually takes light spectrums of frequencies and code and so forth and see it as solid. It's no different than any software program that you would have on a computer, because you can have just digits, whatever it is, and it turns it into a picture, turns it into sound. That's why we call it digitized or digital, because they're just digits. Even analog in one way or another is much more linear, but in analog, even if you go back to it, it's still part of the digits. But now it became more digitized because it broke it down even further. So this whole operating system, that the mind is very powerful, and the operating system of the mind was taking input from your physicality that also took in input from Gaia. The human entity was the input of many, many, many incarnations and experiences and taking on different forms and so forth, that was also inputting into the mind. And then your soul, that is coming from a multidimensional aspect of yourself from various experiences and so forth, was also programming and assisting and creating an illusionary world, or a world of this video game we call, the human experience in a what we call a human planet, which planet Earth has never been what you can call a human planet. I mean, we've had different forms of human at different times, but we also had different species that weren't called humans at that point in time. But the planet is basically the main operating system. It's actually the playground that we use. So all of this stuff here, this operating system that was put into place, became part of it, but the mind itself basically did not have this as an operating system. That was installed after the hybrids came onto the planet and created human hybrids, which are basically 50% of that hybrid of a hybrid, or so it was a hybrid becoming 50% of the hybrid of a human hybrid that came in and brought in this operating system, which they also called the draconian operating system. But that operating system, and to apply that they now had to put a software in it, so that's where the software came in, and then to have us disconnected from the inverted matrix or the true matrix, they created the inverted matrix, which basically let us devolve going into the inverted 3D and 2D. But not only that, we had to also create a transmission of sorts. So this is where they plugged in the moon and everything else. All of that became part of the orchestration of creating a polarized world where we actually had a more accentuated. Now, you may not have been directly involved from a soul perspective to design all of this and to accept it, but aspects of ourselves did, and we always had the freedom to come or not to come, or to stay or to leave. All of that stuff. But now, because you're here, you've come here to reverse it, to basically say, okay, we no longer have to play with that any longer. So, what is, just to touch bases, this operating system with this operating system does what? Promotes and instills the idea of suffering. So you pay attention. If you are suffering and you have a really strong idea of what that is, it's generated from this, because from a source essence, there is no real suffering. You may have intensified experiences or whatever it is, but you see it as all an opportunity, as an experience, and transmute it very easily and quickly. So it promotes and instills suffering, anger, which is an emotion, but a polarized emotion, and a very disempowering emotion, a very controlling emotion. And it actually goes into the driver's seat emotion, where everything gets thrown out the window, meaning that all rationality, all consciousness goes out the window when that anger comes in. And this is why people, when they go into anger and rage, lose all concept of what is really happening. They just go into automatic default. So these two operating software and operating system promotes and instills suffering, anger, conflict, fear, the idea of being unsafe, slavery, a complete disconnection from the planet, from one another, from our own self, from our very essence, and does everything possible to distract you and to create polarity and separation. Polarity, right, wrong, good, bad, and accentuate it further than possible. So to understand, this operating system with this software within your mind promotes and instills suffering, anger, conflict, fear, unsafe, slavery, disconnect from the planet, one another, from ourselves, our essence, and does everything to distract us and to keep us in polarity and separation, which are just projected illusions. Projected illusions, just so that you know. It also does something else. It sets up rules and then makes sure that you suffer based on those rules. Rules of what's right, wrong, good, bad, acceptable, unacceptable. And then make sure that, still this, that you suffer by it. And you can never meet the rules. That's the beauty of it. It makes rules, and then it makes sure that you can't meet it. Because if you can't meet it, then you feel bad about yourself. If you can't meet it, you're a failure. If you can't meet it, you suffer. I want this, 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 this. It programs you to want all of these things, then you can't even have it. And if you do have it, then I'm going to make sure you're uncomfortable while you have it anyways. And this is why a lot of people feel this whole idea of satisfaction is all temporary, because of all of that. It also instills within ourselves hatred of ourselves, hatred of others, judgment of self, judgment of one another, to divide and self-conquer not only ourselves and or conquer others. I'm just saying this so that you can see it. so you can recognize it. It's not to scare you or feel that, oh, I gotta feel bad. No, this is self-empowering. It's like, oh, that's where it is. Great. I see all of these beautiful things playing out. It sets up rules. Then it makes sure that you suffer within those rules and you cannot meet the rules. And then you have the stuff that comes in. Hating ourselves, judging ourselves, comparing ourselves, comparing others, judging others, divide and conquer of ourselves, and so forth. It actually creates divide from our body, from our human entity, from our soul and mind. We become fragmented. That's what it promotes. I'm saying that. It instills and promotes that so that you recognize it. The idea of heartbreaks, that's another good one. Heartbreaks are a construct. It cannot, without the ego, it cannot be experienced. Without this operating system, with this software, with this operating system, you cannot experience heartbreak. For you to have a heartbreak, you have to lose, which is an illusion, or that you have to have in control, or that somebody actually can hurt you, or because somebody left you, your heart is broken, or because somebody died, or whatever it is, or that because you've lost something, like you failed in a business or failed in whatever, right? That illusion is created within the operating system in the software. Without it, you can't experience it. Because from a source point, from a consciousness point, everything is just an experience. And experiences come and go. You are in fluidity. You flow. You play. You engage and disengage. You see the beautiful dance. That's how it is. This operating system, with this software, it uses many, many different other tools. It uses money as a tool to conquer, disconnect, to reinforce failure, success, to have slavery, to have suffering, and so forth. It uses money, uses the medical system, it uses education, it uses media, it uses religion, it uses various different organizations, corporations, and so forth. It creates controls and limits and governmental structures and the whole idea of ownership. That's all promoted within this. So I'm just saying, any of those things that are playing out, you know where it's coming from, and that's what we're deprogramming from ourselves. So if money's governing, you know where it's coming from. Where the medical system is governing, feeling one way or another, you know where it's coming from. Education, of course. Media, of course. Religion, of course. None of it allows you to be yourself, only to get to the point of saying, hey, wait a minute. I'm not giving any more power to that. I'm going to govern myself from this moment and move forward. So these are the tools it uses, just so that you know. It also uses substances. It addicts us to substances, reliance, dependency, uses different programming technologies through various medias and various resources to program the mind so that it follows the rules that this operating system, or what we call this software with this operating system. A lot of people call it mind control. What does it do? It programs the mind to respond. But what's doing it? It's only this part. This part is demanding and really reinforcing to the mind that this is the way it is. This is what we need to do. This is how it operates. This is the way of life. And then when it receives information from your own body, from your human entity and your soul, it says, no, 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 no. This is how it works. So when you're watching television, you're exposed to various medias and so forth, you understand that you're putting into an altered state in a way so that you take on these codes and ideas that reinforce this operating system, or what we call the software, based on that. It's just to recognize it so that you say, okay, great, I'm seeing how I'm being Because how your emotions respond and how you feel is an indicator. It's a very powerful indicator of what's really going on. So it's just paying attention. Reminder, we are the ones that can change all of this. It's not outside of us. It's not someone else. We're doing this together. But it starts from us. Starts from you. Me, you, and everybody else. We're the ones that can change all of this. We're the ones that continue to give power to this or not, or give power to this. Now, even though those things are fading and are dissolving, we can still be under the mesmerized idea that we have no power. But we do. We're the ones that can change this, and we are doing so. We are doing so. If you believe otherwise, it's just this saying, no, you're not getting out of this. No way. And then all the role players and all the systems that exist, they're all created under this banner of operating system, is reinforcing you that no, you have no say, you have no free will, you have no creative power or any abilities. It's just an illusion for us to just kind of see what's going on, but it's not about that. So really, we are just led, this operating system, with this software, we're led to believe that we are powerless and dangerous to ourselves and others. Let me say that again. We're just led to believe. It creates this illusionary belief that we are powerless and we are dangerous to ourselves. Left to our own means, we're dangerous. Left to our own means, we are violent, destructive, and so forth, which is not the case. It's just led to believe that. So now you know. Now you know. So the question is, what are you planning to do about it? Are you going to start paying attention to yourself, to any other input that resonates with you, and start to create a shift within you? You're the one. You have to decide. What do I play? And it's not so much the polarity part, saying, oh, I play good or bad, or light or dark. Do I give power to any of this? Do I really connect with myself and navigate from this? Because this series is all it's doing is kind of triggering your own memory, your own knowing, because it got drowned with a lot of other stuff. So it's just stimulating. And the ones that have already been realizing it more and more, it's just an additional confirmation. It's you speaking with you. You're going to hear only what you need to hear. And each time you listen to this, you'll hear more. So expose yourself, because this is all there to assist you, to remind you who you are and what you're capable and powerful about it, which you've already known and know within yourself. But this has created so much smokescreen, so much noise, with the polarity part of it, of every part of it, you haven't been able to see it. So today you are offering yourselves the opportunity for a new beginning. That's what you're doing. You're offering yourself the opportunity for a new beginning. And the freedom is, we're either going to use this opportunity or not. It's yours. It's yours to choose. This is a new beginning or not. It's offered. You've staged it. Collectively, the polarization has been maximized. It's been intensified. It's been very transparent and very, very in your face type of thing. Showing, hey, see me, got blinking lights now. See the game, see what it is. What do you want to do with it? Really, it's about you saying, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to shift things. I'm ready to create a new world. And it starts with all of us. So that's the decision. It's for us to decide. No one else can decide for you. It's us to decide. But when you decide, don't engage this part. So go to that quiet state, connect with your heart, and say, okay, are we ready? And if it says no, you say, okay, great, I appreciate that part. What else do we need to do beforehand? What else do we need to discover that's in my subconscious mind as an operating program or story, so I can clear it out? Or how much do I need to shift from this part? Or what's still active within myself that keeps me in that state? Because realistically, we're already ready. And we've already decided. That's why we're here. Now, there's going to be some individuals that have decided that they're not going to move forward, but they're going to assist others to move forward. So they're either going to play a polarity role, or they're going to show an enlightened role. So you're going to find some people that are enlightened and are sharing certain information and also showing a certain way of life, just to remind you what you're capable of, or even trigger that part of it within you. And others are going to show you the opposite. They're going to show you the opposite so that you get to the point where that box becomes so freaking uncomfortable that you're ready to step out of it. And that's it. That's for you to decide. So the other part is, keep in mind, we are programmed and we are in the process of deprogramming, and we have an active ego software to unplug from. So we're programmed, we're in the process of deprogramming, and we have an ego software to unplug from. So by realizing that, you know what's going on. You can easily look at it and say, okay, great, I understand the game. I understand how things are going. Let's move on from here. Please realize you've been programmed, conditioned to respond, to act, to think, and feel a specific way through the programming, through this operating system with this software. Now, you're dissolving that and you're bringing in your aspect of yourself. So what you're doing is you're deprogramming the programs that were brought in as part of that. And then you've adopted as part of the experience. And it's absolute perfection. And that this is something that you're going to unplug from. And that's what we're doing right now. You're going to see it as an entity, an operating system in your mind. So this is your mind. You see this operating system that is sending off messages all over through the mind and creating illusionary ideas of a way of life that reflects this operating system with this software. So you're basically seeing it. So, okay, it's just an operating system. It's not who you are, because many of us have, for the longest time, identified with the ego as who you are. In fact, you're far from it because it's everything that you're not. But then part of the experience was to adopt that as who you are. So a lot of times when you hear the idea that there's a healthy ego and an unhealthy ego, there is no such thing. Not to pop your bubble. Don't see it as evil, because then it's only the ego that's going to tell you that the ego is evil, because it keeps you in this web. So the point is to see it that it's a software, that it has provided a particular experience and so forth. But you're no longer identifying. So the idea that you are what the ego has always said to are, which basically the ego compartmentalizes everything. It looks at your experience, labels everything and says you failed or you succeeded, you're good or you're bad, you're this or you're that, you're this career person, or you're this skill set, you're this mom, dad, father, son, daughter, preacher, whatever, and it labels you and all of that stuff, because the ego mind will basically compartmentalize you and say, okay, that's what you are, and don't step outside of that, because that's going to be your focus point, which is great. You had that experience and so forth, but that's not who you are. So the ego itself was really, really, really just showing every aspect of yourself that you're not. So at this point, we're not here to make the ego be your friend. You're part of your operating system, but you can't demonize it either. Don't say, okay, the ego's bad. Make the ego your amigo, and then say, hey, listen, thank you for the relationship. Thank you for the assistance. Thank you for bringing me through those polarized worlds. Thank you for defining me in any way, shape, or form. It was a blast. We had lots of fun. We had lots of experiences. We had this idea of suffering. We had the idea of pain. We had the idea that somehow I was good or not good, or successful or unsuccessful, that I was whatever, right? Thank you for all of that. I appreciate you. I love you for everything that you've done. However, now I relieve you of your responsibility. I let you free. You're no longer in my operating system. And if you try to come back in, I'll just remind you, thank you. Your job, your services are rendered. They're done. We're finished. I love you. Go out and play.
Don't forget you reminded to throw something at the end.
Okay, just remind me at the end. I'm almost there. I think I'm almost there. Yes, I am. Close. Okay. This is a playground we have co-created and accepted as real. We are powerful in our creative abilities. So as much as that any of this operating system was part of the co-creation that was utilized through us, we have the same power to unprogram it, change the whole scape of the playground. Now the playground itself is really wanting us to shift into alignment of who we are, and alignment with that aspect of stepping out of these operating systems. So the platform, what we call playground, or the Earth itself, within our solar system and also our galaxy, have really basically said, okay, we're now to remind us that we're a powerful being. So basically, what we've created as real and accepted as real is something that we are redefining, in the sense of where we are unplugging all of that so-called realism and bring our true operating system so that we create another level of reality that's more in alignment with where we stand at this point in time. Keep in mind, everything is made up and it's here to change. It's to be changed. Everything is made up. Every rule, every idea of different cultures, way of life, way of thinking, systems and so forth, it's all made up and it's here to be changed. Because we're changing. Because we're plugging in more consciousness. The whole idea of polarity was a made up idea. Doesn't matter if it came this operating system and this software, whatever it is, it's all made up. Every single rule, every single law, every so-called protocol, every idea that this is life, every functionality, every system, every level of conditioning of any sort was all made up. And the only reason that there are people in power, because we put them there and allowed them to be there while we were under that mesmerized idea that they had power over us. Even that they are in a position of power is made up. And we bought into the idea that they are, and that they have any say in the matter, or that they can actually dictate our life, or that they have rules. We have adopted that idea that we could do that, and we actually allowed ourselves to play with that. But right now, we're coming to the realization we're not going to play with that make-believe anymore. We're now going to create something completely new from our own alignment. So keep in mind, everything's made up and it's here to be changed. The only reason people are in certain positions of power is because they've self-designed that themselves, but we have given them the power. Because, you know, it doesn't matter what any leadership, any system says, unless we give it power, unless we say, yes, we acknowledge you in this position and you can govern my way of life, it cannot happen. Even though we were made to believe that they had power, we were made to believe through this operating system, through this software, but that's what we're breaking out of, or what we can deprogramming ourselves from. So just keep that in mind. We can wrap all this up and redesign our lives and our world very easily. It's not that complicated. It does not need a very powerful process. It's very much so coming to the realization of everything we've been talking about, everything that you already know within yourself, and other things that we will discuss along the way. It's just coming to that realization and say, okay, you know, we can change this instantaneously, very quickly, but it happens from within. It comes to the point where we do not adhere to any programs, belief systems, or programs that we've taken on and adopted and that the ego has been using that came from the system. We just come to that realization. We don't have to do this anymore. We choose not to support it anymore. We choose no longer to engage in it or to accept it as compliance or anything of that nature, and it starts to change. Us coming together at this point in time by breaking out of this whole illusionary fear and illusionary chaos, because what's happening is all the egos around the world are saying outside of this box, outside of our so-called norm, which is very interesting. Norm is a collective idea that, okay, this is normal and anything out of that is unnormal. Well, you can see how many boxes are in the normal. Each culture, each religion, each gender, and based on different cultures and so forth, all different beliefs are all different boxes within the same box. So it's a matter of just coming to the point of where saying, well, do I give power to these boxes or not? Do I step out of these boxes or do I? So that's the choice. So it's really to understand. So we can choose to do things the hard way, which is fight and flight, bring justice in, get to the point where, we have to demonize, we have to crucify, we have to judge, we have to fight the systems, that we need to rebel, we need to get angry, we need to take certain particular action. All of that, please realize, is all reinforced by this, which is all this operating system. Or we can do it the other way. Change it from the source access point within us, which negates all of this. Source essence. What do I create? How do I create it? What do I choose to shape and direct my life accordingly? Very simple. Very simple. So, this is why we're going through the processes we're going through. We're connecting with ourselves more. We're going into that self-empowered state. We're going into that source essence of ourselves and seeing that we are not only creator, but co-creator, and that our reality only exists, doesn't matter what any of this stuff spills out, that we actually have the choice of how to design and shape it. And that's what we do. We are the ones supporting all of this that's existing right now as it is. Because we bought into the box, and now we're dissolving the boxes. We're dissolving the concepts. We're dissolving the ideas. Everything that's been projected, programmed within ourselves, we're not only challenging it, we're looking at it and turning it off. Disconnecting from it. We're not giving any more power to it. That's all we're doing. That's all we're doing. So somebody said to me at one point, in one of the questions that came in a little while ago, and apparently applies, and it says, okay, listen, I don't want to fight the system, okay? And I don't want to participate. Now, does that going to change everything? Yes, you make the choice. I'm not going to participate and play the game on those terms, which comes from all of this through the system. But at the same time, you can have a preference and say, my preference is to understand this, that I am, first of all, empowered to decide if I'm going to engage or not, and that there's a system that exists or not. Do I give power to it, or do I fight it, or anything of that nature? No. I'm going to bring clarity that the system does not have power over me. I'm going to bring clarity that I do not need to participate, and I have the freedom to agree or not agree, consent or not consent. That's great, but I'm not going to apply expectations either. So that means whatever's going to unfold is going to unfold exactly the way it needs to unfold. I don't have to be justified. I don't have to make a point. I don't have to fight, saying, you're wrong, I'm right. It doesn't work that way. The more powerful way is saying, okay, I'm going to make my statement of my viewpoint of how I see things and how they're playing. I'm not going to say it's right, wrong, good, or bad. I'm showing you there's other ways, that the system is made up and that we don't have to give power to this made up thing, but it's up to you if you want to play with it. I'm choosing not to engage. This is my preference. This is how I'd like to see it happen, but you're completely neutral if it plays out that way or not, because you're going to let the rest of the system go. Because no matter where you stand at this point in time, you're going to be the powerful one that decides, how am I going to engage? What am I going to do? How am I going to be interfered or affected by it? How much am I going to run under that operating system? If you still have anger, you still have justice and fear, judgment, and right, wrong, good, bad, then you're still under these operating systems. So you want to get to the point of neutrality. You want to get to the point of where it does not matter what the outcome is. You are going to create certain steps and experiences and share what you need to share, completely neutral and so forth, and let it take its own course, because the higher aspect of yourselves will let you have whatever experience best serves you. Okay? What was that?
You wanted to be reminded.
Yes, I forgot what that was though.
I don't know. You didn't tell me. You just said remind me to throw something in at the end.
When I said that, what was I talking about? Okay. All right. Well, if it doesn't get covered now, it gets covered another time. Okay. So this gives you a good baseline. I know we had to go through 6 parts. That was not my intention. And I wrote the wrap up because I was intending to wrap it up today so that we can go to episode 19 next time around. So, all right. What we're going to do next Thursday, we're going to connect again and we're going to address some questions that have come through. So that's going to be the next episode. It's going to be episode, I don't know, I guess we can call it 19. Episode 19. I had already planned out what 19 was going to be, but in the next episode, we're going to address questions that have come in to kind of whatever hasn't been addressed, or I can touch upon it really quickly. So that's the main focus. Then Saturday, this coming Saturday, we're having another guided meditation based on love and oneness, advancing our current dance of life. Advancing our current dance of life. To really bring this to the next level, to move things forward, we're going to use love and oneness, seeing the beautiful dance that we are coming together. So that's coming up on that regard. Was there any questions, anything that are hot on the trail to address right now before we wrap it up?
It seems that we have a whack of people on today for some reason, and there's new people on that are seeing your Lucifer thing, and they're a little freaked out by that. So I'm just trying to explain that it's just an operating system.
Yes. So if they actually look, see episode 18, we have part 1 all the way to part 6, we talk about it. This is not what we've adopted as an idea of what is being shared, because the same operating system has been creating this illusionary part. So what we're looking at is just a software. It's an operating system. We have to understand that everything is created through software. What we're talking about, software and operating system. For example, on a computer, there's different types of operating system. There is what we call Windows operating system, which is a DOS-based that, Microsoft, took on the role to bring that to the world through whatever measures they did. Apple came in with their iOS operating system, which is slightly different, which was the original, what looked like a Windows operating system. There's Unix and Xenix, and there's various operating systems. And that operating systems is what allows the computer to be able to function, because it needs instructions. Then we have various softwares, and the different softwares basically allow us to do a certain task under that operating system. So just to clarify that, we on this planet Earth 15,000 years ago was retooled and reprogrammed to have a very specific operating system, which we call the human operating system. That operating system was a very elaborate, powerful operating system. That operated for 5,000 years. Now, this operating system we call the Lucifer operating system was created very ingeniously to create a very powerful disconnect from the essence of the playground, of any playground, because this operating system exists on many, or has existed on many different planets within our galaxy, and various planets have emerged from it. Some other planets just basically is fully that operating system. But this was an operating system that was written, and the operating system of this is an operating system of dominance, control, and destruction sort of thing. Basically bringing it to the point of disconnecting from what we call source essence, even though that's not possible, because this operating system can't exist without being in the field of source, because besides the field of source, there's nothing to be able to sustain it energetically, consciously, and also in a field of main operating system, which we won't get into. But so that was written and put into place to create a very powerful separation, a very power dualistic way of experiencing. So this is just an operating system. Now, the only way it was introduced on planet Earth, and we have to understand this is the 4th time that it's been introduced on planet Earth. It's the first time it's been offered to to this series of species or physicality or series of human experience. The previous time before this was offered in the time of Atlantis, and then there was a time of Lemurian, and there was another time before that that was offered. Each time it was offered, it would come in as an operating system, so either it transcended from it or it used itself to self-extinguish itself. That's kind of the thing. So it was offered to us 10,000 years ago, and when I say us, facets of ourselves, because we're all one, but different souls. Some of the souls that are on the planet right now, we're part of it. We're involved. That we're agreeing. So planet Earth was retooled. The last time it was retooled was 15,000 years ago. These human bodies were created, or what we call holographic expressions. And for 5,000 years, it operated under a organic matrix, because every planet has a matrix. It's the main operating system that allows us to see all the same experience on a planet Earth. How we interpret it, how we expand out from it, and so forth is individualized by their signatures of our souls, our individualized signature of our human entities and bodies. But at the same time, it was offered. So for the first 5,000 years, after 10,000 years ago, there was a species, a reptilian species, that actually decided to take on the operating system that was written, which they called the Lucifer operating system. They took it on, and so for them to be able to operate, they had to create a hybrid aspect of themselves to have that operating system, because a reptilian operating system, or Anunnaki operating system, or let's say this reptilian operating system, could not function with this, because it already had a very full ingrained operating system. So what it did is it split the system up and adopt it. So now they were operating on two operating systems, the reptilian operating system and the Lucifer operating system. So they became hybrids, and then they were called Draconians and they were called Anunnakis. And at that point in time, they went out, and these hybrids, which were partially reptilian with their advanced operating system and the Lucifer operating system, went around and offered these opportunities for other planets to adopt this operating system so that they would create a more challenging expression. So 10,000 years ago, when it was offered to planet Earth, the soul said it was offered, manipulative or otherwise, but it was offered, and kind of said, okay, if we plug this part in, we're creating more polarity, more separation, more disconnect, and much more accentuated aspects. So just to give you that part of it, I'm just going really quickly so that we don't get into, did you have something to say?
No, I think.
Okay, so just so I don't get off track. So when it was introduced, we took it on, but it's just that. It's just an operating system to apply everything else. So there's nothing to be spooked about. It's not the religious stuff. It's not the whole idea that there's this negative deity or anything of that nature. It's just a pure operating system that actually created more separation. That's all it is. So just wanted to share that. All right, was there anything else I wanted to cover? No, we're good. We're good. So we wrapped up part 6 of episode 18. You've got a lot of information. Please take the time to go through it, especially if you're really new to this. Take the time to look at the different episodes. But if you want to understand this part of it more clearly, start with episode 18, part 1, 2, 3, 4. Each one is almost 2 hours long, some a little bit over. And just immerse yourself in that. And really what's there to stimulate your higher conscious, stimulate a factor of be able to go into the driver's seat of yourself. So we will address questions and go a little further this coming Thursday at 4 p.m. You're welcome to join us. If you find that this is great, give us a thumb up, like, whatever you'd like to call it. If you're on, mostly everybody's on YouTube at the moment. Give your thumbs up, subscribe so that you get notifications. I think you have to click the little bell beside it to get the notification, but if you subscribe, this basically allows this information to go out quickly. Please, if you feel all in resonance, you want to support our work and continue to have all this stuff come out free, you can support us financially by just contributing whatever amount that feels comfortable. If you don't feel like it, don't worry about it. Just the key here is that you receive the information, that you're activating your own knowing within yourself. That's all it's about. We're not doing this as a business. We're doing this as a way so that we all advance, we move forward. We're doing this together. I'm not here to be your guru or anything of that nature. Absolutely not. Just triggering memory of what you already know, give you certain confirmation, and kind of give you some certain level of clarity, which resonates or doesn't resonate with you. Be okay with whatever is playing out, and we're off to play at another level. So if there's nothing else that we want to say, then we'll see you on Thursday. For the people that didn't get to see it on Facebook, we'll post it on Facebook or restream it on Facebook or something of that nature. But we'll get it out there if we can. But anyways, till next time, go out and have a blast. All yours, Kimberly.